This is the real deal. This is what they do not want you to know. This is live, uncut, C-SPAN. Okay, listen guys. Bergdahl for 5 Talibani generals. It was supposed to be 1 general for 7 hostages. But Obama's and his State Department came in after it was negotiated already. They already had negotiations ongoing for 7 hostages for 1 general. Once they got to the table with the people in charge of the negotiations, which is the guy you're getting ready to hear, okay? The guy you're going to see talking. Once that happens, they said, no, we're giving all 5 of these guys just for 1 guy. We do not want to get 7 people home for 1 general. We want to get the 5 worst people we can out of Gitmo. And we only want to do it for 1 hostage. It's unbelievable. Here it goes.
I'd like to start with Lieutenant Colonel Amarine. And I appreciate you meeting with me in my office yesterday. I just want to, because you told me an awful lot yesterday, which I appreciate. I think I maybe have your why, but I want you to confirm this. You told me that in the course of your attempts to gain the freedom of these hostages in Afghanistan and Pakistan, you were made aware, it's your belief, that the government did pay a ransom and that ransom money was stolen. And secondly, that you believed you were pretty close to potentially having a deal where we would get 7 hostages in exchange for 1 Taliban leader, and instead we got 1 hostage in exchange for 5 Taliban leaders. Is that kind of in a nutshell, that information, is that why you've been retaliated against, or what is the reason?
Yes, sir. I think that there are layers of this, as I said, in terms of layers of the bureaucracy. On December 1st of 2014, Representative Hunter submitted a complaint to the IG alleging an illegal or questionable ransom possibly being paid for Sergeant Bergdahl. There was a good deal of evidence that it occurred and a lot of questions as to how it occurred. That complaint implicated both the DoD organization and the FBI. So part of what lit the fuse was the same folks in the FBI that were basically implicated in the DoD IG complaint of 1 December were the ones that later complained to the Army that I was sharing sensitive information with Representative Hunter. Another aspect of it on the FBI side was, I think, just the general frustration with Representative Hunter pushing them hard on civilian hostages and their awareness that I was speaking to Representative Hunter about all of this. I mean, he even set up a meeting between my office and the FBI to try to help them out with some of this. And after the meeting, they responded by contacting Caitlin Coleman's father and threatening him not to speak to Representative Hunter again, or he would stop getting supported by the FBI.
Caitlin Hunter was another person that was supposed to be freed. Just another American that Obama and the State Department decided that they didn't need to come home, and they'd rather just get rid of the generals. Unbelievable. Here it is.
And just an atrocious treatment of family. So the FBI complained to the Army, and for reasons to be seen, there was a bit of a debate within the Army whether I actually did anything wrong. And my understanding is one party, who I just don't want to be speculative, but there was a big debate within the Army over whether I did anything wrong, and that led to the investigation.
Can you tell me a little bit about what deal you thought you had for the release of the hostages?
So my office worked options. We looked at a whole variety of options. One of the options that we developed was a, we called it, the 1 for 7 option. It entailed 6 hostages and a 7th person I'd just rather not discuss today. So the 6 hostages is actually 5 hostages and a...
Unbelievable, guys. Okay, I'm just going to rewind this a little bit. You can hear it one more time. This is crazy stuff.
My office worked options. we looked at a whole variety of options. One of the options that we developed was a, we called it, the 1 for 7 option. It entailed 6 hostages and a 7th person I'd just rather not discuss today. So the 6 hostages is actually 5 hostages and a prisoner of war. So Sergeant Bergdahl, Caitlin Coleman, the child she bore in captivity, Josh Boyle, and Colin Rutherford. When we saw that nobody else was trying to get them home, we were working every initiative possible. One was the 1 for 7, and in that we were looking at Haji Bashir Noorzai. He was described as the Pablo Escobar of Afghanistan, and we realized that he actually was just another warlord who was actually an ally of the Karzai regime.
Okay, so what's going on here is they were going to give that guy back, okay, to the northern Afghanistan region, and those people that they were giving him back to were going to be able to free some other hostages. But as you're going to hear here is that the Obama administration didn't want anything to do with letting that guy go, because that guy was in a federal prison, okay? You're going to hear we duped this guy into coming here, and then we slapped the cuffs on and put him in federal prison. Not Gitmo. But Obama and his people, what they want to do is they wanted to empty Gitmo. So the first thing they think they need to do is get rid of the highest value targets, the most dangerous people. The reason why they want to get rid of the most dangerous people is because if they can do that, then they can come back at you and say, hey, we might as well empty Gitmo altogether and just get rid of it, because we already got the 5 most dangerous people. They're no longer in there. Everybody else is less dangerous, so we might as well let them out. That's the narrative. I'll let them continue.
To the U.S. under a false promise of safe passage and basically unsealed an indictment and put him in jail for life. Some felt he was a wretched human being and others felt he was wronged. As we looked at the options, we looked at 5 for 1, which we thought had died in 2012.
5 for 1.
As the worst option. And so for us it was, we aren't getting in 2012 as the worst option. And so for us it was, we aren't getting Bergdahl, let alone the other hostages, back for free. Every option was going to be painful. So the Noorzai option for us was one that was at least less painful.
The Noorzai option is that Afghan Pablo Escobar drug dealer that we had in federal prison. We were going to give them that man back.
We were able to reach out to the Noorzai tribe itself that we believe could free the hostages, and we made a lot of progress on it. I briefed it widely, but in the end, when the Taliban came to the table, the State Department basically said it must be the 5 for 1. That's the only viable option we have, and that's what we went with. I briefed.
They had to go with this because the State Department said, we're not going to get 7 Americans home for a drug dealer. What we're going to do is get a traitor in Bo Bergdahl home for 5 Talibani generals. That's what we're going to do, okay?
But in the end, when the Taliban came to the table, the State Department basically said it must be the 5 for 1. That's the only viable option we have, and that's what we went with.
Okay, so I just wanted to get to the final consensus by the guy doing the questioning, and here it is. Listen to what he says.
I can see how members of the government, if there was an option for 7 or 6 Americans for 1 Taliban, and the deal ended up being 5 Taliban for 1 American, they probably wouldn't want that too highly publicized. So I can see how members of the government, if there was an option for 7 or 6 Americans for 1 Taliban, and the deal ended up being 5 Taliban for 1 American, they probably wouldn't want that too highly publicized.
Yeah, not only would they not want this publicized, when you hear about this in the news, nobody's bringing it up. They're just bringing up how this guy whistleblowed, and you know, it's an issue and he has stern words for the administration, but none of the media pundits, I can't even find it in writing, they're not talking about how we had an option to get 6 or 7 Americans back home for a Talibani drug dealer. And then the State Department nixed it and said, no, we are going to get rid of these 5 Talibani generals and we're just going to get Bo Bergdahl. We don't need these other people involved. Anyway, spread the word. This is ridiculous.